Hello, everybody, and welcome to Let's Talk Relationship. And I am so excited to be here this week with you. We have a great guest that's coming on. And I just want to simply acknowledge you and say thank you for chiming in. If you're here on live, please hashtag live, or if you're watching on the replay, please hashtag replay. But today we're going to be talking about something really interesting and quite in depth. And as the title says, building conscious connected relationships. And, a lot of us have probably been around the block a few times building meaningful relationships. And sometimes we, have run into different situations, had different experiences, but we're all looking for connection. Let's face it, we're all wanting to have clarity how to create this meaningful connection with that very special someone. So today we have a very special guest coming on, Jayden Leigh from Queensland, Australia. Yes, he's a fellow colleague. Jayden is a husband and a father of two, and he's a conscious parenting advocate and works with mothers, is particularly a relationship coach for mums, and dealing with emotions. So I am going to bring Jayden in, and he's going to tell us a little bit more about what he does and how we can create more conscious, connected relationships. So welcome, Jayden.
Hello, Stefania. So good to be here. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for coming on this morning. I know it's well, it's not really that early. It's only 10:30 here in Australia. But it's probably a good time, isn't it? Sort of before it gets really crazy in the day. But yeah, so welcome. You are doing an amazing job with our ladies, our mums of the world. So if you just want to tell us a little bit more about what you do. You're a conscious coach, like you really have got some stuff going on. So do you want to just let the audience know what you do?
Yeah, sure thing. So I work predominantly in the space of emotions, emotional regulation, and that's also led me down the path to really exploring relationships and what a healthy and conscious relationship actually is. So, as you said, I'm a dad and a father of two, and I'm quite young, but quite versed in the relationship space. Um, I I started off as an emotions coach, understanding the power of emotions. I originally was mindset, and after doing a lot of work in that space and kind of hitting a ceiling, I wanted to explore emotions more because I was getting coached myself, and really once I started tapping into my emotions, I found so much more freedom and liberation from myself, from my mind, and it really connected with my heart and learning how to navigate my emotions in a healthy way. And I thought this was just beautiful and so profound. And I was able to heal and grow at such a rapid pace beyond what mindset would let me. And this is where I just totally shifted my entire focus, and I've been doing this work for quite a while now, and thoroughly enjoying it. And what my mission here is to help women. I work with mums, particularly around 40 plus. 40 to 45 is usually the age group that's most attracted to my coaching. And I really help my clients delve into their emotions to explore what they are. Because so many of us in life, in the whole world, have been conditioned to kind of suppress our emotions, to keep them bottled up in one way or another. And we just don't have experience experiencing our emotions.
Mm.
And so learning how to have a relationship with our emotions, with ourselves, is really the most important part. And a lot of my clients are divorced or divorcing, and they're looking to, either mend the relationship with their partner or enter in new relationships. And the the impact of that is quite big. There's a lot of like, how do I do this? How do I move forward? And really, what I'd work with my clients the most of all is how to have that relationship with ourselves, how to regulate our emotions, how to feel through our emotions, how to get rid of our own crap
Mm.
that is contributing to the breakdown or inability to start new relationships in a healthy way. So it's really where my focus is there.
Wow, that sounds pretty exciting. And I love it because you're doing like um, the female, you're dealing with the women and I'm dealing with men. And it's a really great way to, have, I guess, both sexes to work on themselves and then, meet as two separate, complete wholes, I guess, because a lot of the times where, you know, people find that they're searching and searching and not healing their own stuff, right? Before jumping into another relationship. So tell me, what's the biggest challenge that like women are facing, like in in releasing or expressing their emotions? Because usually it's all about the men. It's like men can't express themselves, men can't get emotionally connected, which is not necessarily true, right? There's also a lot of women out there that aren't emotionally connected.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And it's so beautiful that the information, the word is getting out there that men are really struggling, right? That men have been conditioned to suppress their emotions in a way to be seen as strong, like strength and suppression, like is a coveted thing. And it's fantastic that that message is getting out there. It truly is. That message, that awareness has helped me tremendously on my own healing journey. But women are also
Mm,
incredibly suppressed. And usually, I'm talking generally speaking here, that suppression is around not being allowed to say you don't have your shit together. Is that okay if I swear?
absolutely, go for
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
The 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 need or the pressure to have everything done right? To be the good girl, the people pleaser, right? And to not allow themselves to fully express when they're upset or when they're frustrated, right? And what happens is when my clients are putting so much pressure or like trying to suppress these emotions, the pressure's got to come out one way or another. And
Right.
so it would usually come out as anger, aggression, frustration, and then because these women haven't been taught that they're allowed to express these things, then shame and guilt come into play. And so there's this kind of just spiral of, well, I don't know how to feel my emotions. I don't know how to express my needs. I'm supposed to just bottle it all up and say that everything's good and put a smile on my face. But then all of these things come up and I don't know how to handle it. And then it comes out in one way or another. And then I shame and guilt myself for doing something that I'm not supposed to do.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. That is, it's a bit of a vicious cycle, isn't
Oh, yeah.
it? Excuse me. And then this misdirected anger or frustration or shame, guilt, as you said, it comes out one way or the other. Sometimes it's kind of, the sparks come out towards the men. And if they're in a relationship or around male energy, it doesn't really come out the right way, right? Or in a way that men can understand, because that's the other thing. Do you want to kind of share a little bit more about that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is really what it all comes down to is how do we communicate with each other and what language are we able to interpret, right? Typically, right?
Mm.
And I just want to do air quotes for the rest of the call here. Is that, men are more likely to try and see a problem and try and fix it, right? They're more interested in things and achieving, whereas women are typically more inclined to be more emotionally expressive. Okay. Now, if my clients are, and this is pretty much number one, right, challenge when it comes to communication and connection is my partner or this guy, they won't listen to me.
Mm,
They're not giving me what I need,
mhm,
right? Now, the thing is, and what makes things really complicated is a lot of the time my clients don't actually know what they need. They don't know how to articulate it. They don't know how to verbalize it, how to language it, because they haven't been allowed to say what they need because
mm,
they've been denied that condition throughout their life. And so there's this unknown inner feeling like something's not right. and we don't know how to express what they actually need. And so it just comes out as, you're upsetting me, talking to the partner or the husband, you're upsetting me, you're not letting me live my life, you're treating me bad. And then the husbands or partners are typically saying, well, tell me what you want so I can fix it.
Exactly. They're always going back to the fix it, right?
Right, right. And this is like, I am a recovering fixaholic, right? Everything was a nail to me and I was a hammer, no matter what. So it's really having the ability to understand and create that safe space between you and your partner to understand what needs do both parties have, and what is the capacity to verbalize or express those needs. Because if there is a shortcoming in your ability to express those needs, then there's stuff being left on the table. And that's where that animosity is going to be sitting. That's where that frustration is going to be, because we're just having needs that aren't being met. So creating that space where we can communicate and explore together what the needs are is so crucially important.
Absolutely, absolutely. I just want to acknowledge we have a few people here. First of all, Matt. G'day, Steph. I'm here now. Okay, thanks for chiming in. And we also have the lovely Zanetta. She's all the way from Ohio in America. Hi, Bella, and hello, Jayden. Thanks for chiming in. Thank you. Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about this whole, I guess, male and female and this expression. So how do you help these women to actually, what are a few things that you would say that, I know it's like doing work on yourself and, diving deep, but initially just to help them realize and maybe take responsibility for those emotions that, because a lot of the times we don't want to even take responsibility for the emotions, right?
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So a really big part, and some of the early work that I do with my clients is all about understanding who we are and what's going on with inside of us, right? I don't talk about relationships for quite a while because all the inner work needs to be done first, or as much as possible. So when a client comes to me with a challenge in a relationship, right, that challenge is, or that problem is never really the problem. It's the thinking or the feeling that created the problem to begin with.
Mhm.
And so what it's all about initially is learning how to identify what's going on within the body, right? You're angry at this. Okay, let's explore that. What is that anger? Where does that anger come from? And essentially just working back and dismantling that anger or that emotion and being able to explore that emotion with love and compassion for yourself. No shame, but really being able to understand it. What is this here for? What is it trying to teach me? And learning how to work through that emotion. We cannot converse or connect with someone if we're highly emotionally charged. It's just not going to work, not the way that we want it to. So it's all about self-regulation. How can I not be triggered in the moment based on some traumas or filters that I'm perceiving the world through from the past? How can I see this moment as it is? How can I connect with my partner in this moment right now, not through my traumas? So getting to understand how we do that is crucial. Learning how to go into the body, explore the emotions. I teach my clients how to feel an emotion to completion, release it from the body in a healthy and regulated way that's sustainable. Okay. This takes time, and fully appreciate that experiencing these emotions for the first time, potentially ever, for some of my clients is a monumental task in itself.
Absolutely, yeah, because
Huge.
I think there's not enough understanding about the emotions. I think, like you said, everything's just being suppressed. Everything's more on the physical plane, and we're not connecting with our spirit. We're not connecting with these emotions. We're not connecting with this energy that keeps resurfacing. And you kind of hit the nail on the head when you said past traumas. We're living every experience that we're having, particularly if it's not eventful, through our past trauma, and all that together with the chain of events that's attached to kind of gets regurgitated up, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. How it works is quite fascinating. when we're in especially our developmental years, 0 to 7, right, we're exposed to a monumental amount of experiences, right? We're exposed to the values and the beliefs that our family hold, just mundane tasks and daily activities, and also big events, big traumas events, small trauma events. And all of these, what they do is they create, I like to think of it this way. You ever seen gone to an aquarium, you see that big, thick pane of glass at the aquarium?
Mm-hmm.
If we turn that on its side, that is the lens in which we see the world through. It's thick, but it's our lens, it's our unique lens, and it's created by all of the events I just listed, continuous events. Now, each event creates a layer on that lens, another layer, another layer, another layer, thousands upon thousands of layers. And we turn that around, and that's what we see the world through. And that's unique to us. Only we have experienced the things in our way, uniquely to us, that creates that kaleidoscope of experiences that we filter the world through. And
Yeah.
so that completely determines how we witness things and what meaning we give something based on our own experiences growing up. So all of those traumas that we've experienced, all of the fights we've seen our parents have, all of the times we weren't hugged, or the times we were hugged too much, or all of those things combined create and help us perceive what we're actually seeing. And so that can very easily skew what's actually happening. Can absolutely misinterpret the actions or behaviors of our partner. If they're meaning to do one thing and we see it another way, we're seeing it through our experience, not theirs.
All right. And that's a really great way that you've put it, actually, through that layer and layer, and turning that lens around. And it's definitely your own lens. It's a lens that that only you can see, and that's your worldview of everything. And everyone else has got their own worldview, right? Yeah. So I think let's have a look here. Zanetta says, I believe we're not taught how to have a dialogue, but monologue. In other words, communication is one way, my way, and not two-way, our way. Yeah, definitely. I think,
Totally agree. This is so important when it comes to how do we connect? How do we start that conversation? We're just not taught. Like, a lot of us aren't taught how to have a conversation with someone, how to hold space. I like to, when it comes to like rules of engagement, just in general,
mm,
right, and kind of the feedback I give, any men or women when it comes to having difficulty communicating in relationship, is taking 3 steps. It's acknowledge, validate, ask. So when someone's saying something, it's like, Stefania, if we were together and you come up to me talking about something, I would acknowledge, validate, and ask another question. Acknowledge, validate, ask.
yeah.
That is the formula for holding space. Do that repeatedly. That
Mm.
is how we create a beautiful connection.
Absolutely. Which, I often say to, that's a recipe for avoiding judgment and getting into that, distort, delete, and generalize mindset that we just so easily fall into, whether it's because we've seen it through our own parents, we've grown up with it. But yeah, I think that's a great way. It's a great recipe. Acknowledge, validate, and then ask. If you follow that formula, that's certainly going to give you the answers or the understanding of what's going on in that very moment, right?
Exactly. We're so focused on trying to be heard instead of trying to listen.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And Zanetta says, a recipe for understanding. Yes, we need more recipes like that, don't we? Definitely. So, having said that, listening. So, if we were to talk to our men out there, that is definitely, and it's not only a recipe for women, it's also for men, right? It's a recipe all round.
Mhm.
What would you say to men, like, because I often have men come to me saying, oh, she's a drama queen, she just you know throws her arms up in the air and like, and they have these explosive, um you know I guess, connections that come together and then explode, come together. What would you say to, someone that dearly loves their woman? Because, to be in a relationship, even though it's explosive and there's all kinds of stuff going on, they are still together. So obviously there's something there that's holding them together, right? Might be a number of reasons, but fundamentally there's something. What would you say to these poor men that are just so confused with these, these emotional women that are struggling with their own emotions, and he's struggling with his emotions as well?
Yeah.
What would you say to that, or to
So
men out there?
think it's really important to think about where the other person is coming from. Okay. If someone is expressing themselves in a way that is unresourceful, it's really about, like, if you're the person who's wanting the change, okay, this is very important to understand. First and foremost is that we can't change people who don't want to change, right? So if I'm speaking to a client, I'm speaking to that client as in, you are responsible for the change that you make. Okay, this is all on you. I can't coach your partner, right? But I can coach you to help move towards a better, collaborative relationship experience. If in the example that you shared, there's an overly emotional drama queen, instead of judging her, I'd be asking her or trying to explore what needs aren't being met. What is compelling her to behave this way? Does she not feel listened to? Does she not feel heard? What is missing from her life where her emotional expression has had to achieve such a height that she's getting your attention in this way? It's not always our partner that is the problem. A lot of the times it's ourselves and our unconscious contributions to the pain in the relationship. This goes both ways. I have the same conversation with my female clients.
No, I know. I say the same thing. Actually, it's pretty much what you're saying is what I'm working through with my men as well. So really, it's not gender. It's really, soul driven stuff that goes on. I have Oksana here. Hello, Oksana. Welcome. Hi, Jayden. My husband is always like that. Don't worry, I'll fix it. Yes. What's the recipe? Yes.
This is a really, really important one when it comes to men always trying to fix things. How we're brought up, right, is our conditioning is that we need to be of service, and that we need to, like, our sense of self-worth is based around being able to provide. And that providing is around solving things or fixing things, coming up with solutions. Now, again, if you combine that typically with our unconscious understanding that emotions are weak or not useful or inferior, then when we would see our partner being emotionally erratic in our perception, then we could say, so, say if my wife came to me and said, oh, I'm just having a really hard time with my friend Becky, she's doing this, rah, 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 it just goes on. What I would typically do as a man would be, oh, why didn't you just tell her to do this? Problem solved. Easy. I've done my job. Congratulations, crisis averted. Give myself a pat on the back. Now, I'm sure all the women listening to this are just like seething because something has been missed, right? Like, what have I as a man not seen? And what I haven't seen as a man is that a lot of times women don't actually want things to be fixed. They want to be heard. They want to be seen. They want to be validated and know that their emotions matter. Their emotions matter because that ties in with them as safety, feeling like they're considered, feeling like they are being thought of, and that their emotions matter. Now, so our job as men, and what I would encourage all men to do, if they're having a conversation with a woman or partner, and it's bordering along the lines of, oh, I know the solution here, I'm going to step in and try and fix it. I want you to pause. And this is really important to preface this with a conversation with your partner first, to create the standards of of like how to interact from here on. So you have the conversation, talk about this exact topic, and you say, next time when you come, I'm going to ask a question before I attempt to try and offer a solution. I want to ask, do you want support or do you want a solution?
Mm,
And as the woman, it would be very helpful for you to take that, even though like there's that feeling of, well, I shouldn't have to bloody ask. He should just know. I
right.
hear that quite a lot.
Yes.
Just know that it is incredibly difficult for the typical man to understand that and to read that ahead of time. And so when we're learning, we need to ask which ones who tell us what to do. And once we're told what to do, sweet, right? Then we can say, okay, you just need support here. I'm going to validate, acknowledge, and ask, and
Mm.
keep going down that track. And if you want a solution, great, I'll give you a solution.
Yeah. I think that's, something that happens a lot, just backtracking where you said, women will say, well, he should just know. I don't have to tell him. Like I've told him so many times. And they get stuck. That's what I say. Like, don't get stuck on what should have happened. Like moving forward and saying, okay, well, he doesn't see or he doesn't understand. He may need to hear it again. And get to a point where there's a communication flow. Because what happens, I think, a lot of the times, there's this silent treatment. They fall into this stonewalling. Well, he doesn't get it. That's it. Cut off, shut down, and then neither of them, even if one party's trying to get through, it's not happening. And yeah, you're heading for disaster really when we go down that track. So communication, the flow of communication is so important. So important. Just want to acknowledge Zanetta. She says, I'm open in the beginning. I tell my husband I don't want to be fixed. I just want him to hear me out. I'm just venting. Yeah, well, that's great. At least she's you're saying that, and as a man, you've just got to sit back and listen, right? Don't fix the venting. Don't fix anything. Just allow the woman to be heard. Yes, just want to be heard. So, gentlemen, allow that woman to speak her piece. That's a great suggestion, Jayden. Thank you, Oksana. If you have any more questions, please let them flow through because this is what we're here for, to help both. And if there's any men out there listening, I know there's usually lots of men coming through. I did have we had Matthew here with talking a little bit about I don't have a type of person that attracts me, and I want to love, care, and be married, whatever the word is used, to start a family with. Yes, Matthew, we need to work on ourselves first, right? We definitely want to. How long have you been married for, Jayden?
Married for 7 years and together for coming on 14.
Oh, wow. How old are you? If I can ask. You
I'm
don't look old
34,
to me.
34, so we've
You're
been
like
together since I
12
was
years
20.
old when you Fantastic. Oh, that's great. Yeah, well, these men that wanna have relationships and they haven't fixed up, inverted commas, or healed, let's say, not fixed, but healed, released emotions of the past. Share a little bit about, obviously you've had your fair share of experiences, and that's why you've come to come to be a coach with healing emotions. But for the men, where men are just so tight in opening up and not wanting to, because you know what, men don't have problems. They're just like, we're cruisy.
Apparently not. It's all bullshit.
Exactly. Yeah, how would you, what would you say to the man out there that, is listening, and it's triggering something, but it's just making
Yeah.
that initial move, like,
Yep,
because I
yep.
get it, I understand it. It is difficult.
It's incredibly difficult. And why it's incredibly difficult is because taking the step in the direction of personal development is hard. It's hard because you've never done it before. It's hard because you've spent your entire life running the opposite direction. And it's hard because maybe you're carrying burdens and traumas from past relationships, from a potentially either you were completely unconscious or your partner or both. And that's just left scars on you. And so it's hard. And so you want to avoid repeating that pain, but also the pain of improving yourself is also incredibly difficult because you're facing your own demons. Now, like one of the main challenges that comes from my clients when they're trying to re-enter the dating scene is that there's just a lack of potential candidates out there as men, because typically men are still after sex and alcohol, and that's it, right? There's very little like openness to connection, and I get it. Like it's a hard road to do. What I say to my clients is this, and what the same rules go for all of the men out there. If you're looking for a partner, be the partner, become the partner you wish to attract. That's how you do it. It's not someone else's job to try and heal you. It's not someone else's job to look after you. It's your job. It's your responsibility. A relationship isn't where someone completes you. That is bullcrap. That's not how it works.
Yeah.
If you're relying on someone else to make you happy, that's dependency. That's not love. You need to do the work on yourself. How a relationship works is that it's two people on their own individual journeys trying to figure out how to love themselves, and they support each other on that journey. I'll explain it this way. In a relationship, you cannot love your partner more than you're able to love yourself. It is impossible.
Mm.
Anything that you feel towards your partner that is higher than the love that you have for yourself is not love towards them. It's attachment. So
Mm.
the journey of a relationship is to travel up and figure out how to love yourself more and more and more, whilst you've got a partner who's doing the same thing on their own self-love journey. And every notch up that you take of self-love, you're able to give that love back. And then they notch their love up for themselves, and they're able to give that love back. And it's a reciprocal love connection that goes up. You're two people walking side by side. That's a relationship. That's how you have a loving connection. So the idea of this is start working on yourself. And more than anything, what's so attractive to a woman is finding a man who is dedicated to doing the work. Do the work for yourself. Show them that you're committed to this growth. Show them that you're open to learning. Put that ego aside. Say, yeah, I don't know the answer, but I'm working on it and I want to figure this out. Do you want to figure it out together? That is attractive.
Absolutely. I love it. I love it. I think all the women out there are just like, yeah, Jayden, that's how you do it. That's fantastic. Yeah, I totally agree with you. Men have to, think about putting that ego aside because it hasn't served them. If it hasn't served you till now, and whatever age you are, 30, 40, 50, 60, whatever, age has got no, it's not about age, but it's about the time that you're actually wasting, because it's just, time is so precious and you could be really investing in yourself. And yes, it is so attractive. And I don't only say it's attractive. I tell men all the time, it's super sexy. A woman will find a man that is literally working on himself super, super sexy, because there's then that, oh wow, like he's working on his emotions, like he's emotionally connected, because that's how the emotional connection really just starts building, and you build that together, particularly if you want to build it together. And it's simple, just asking. I say to men, keep it simple, just ask the questions, you're going to get the answers. Don't tippy toe around trying to think that she's going to give you the answers straight up, because she's not. And women, and as a woman, I can understand sometimes we do leave things out in sentences. We are testing the man. There's, what do they call it? Shit testing going on all the time, So I think we need to really cut that out and just just be clear with our questions so you can get.
That's really an important point, Stefania. And when my wife and I we're always working on a relationship, but when these sorts of conversations were first coming up, I was getting very frustrated because my wife's Hannah. I'm saying, Hannah, like, I don't know what you want me to do. Like actually just tell me what it is, and then I can change. If I don't know, I don't know. So here's the opportunity. Let me know what you want, or forever hold your peace. like please, like, throw me a bone here.
Yes.
I don't know what I don't know. Like when I didn't know how to ride a bike, I didn't know how to ride a bike until I learned how to do it. Right? You know, who here's had an apprenticeship or something like that, where their boss was just like hounding them for not knowing how to do things when they hadn't been taught how to do it. Like, I'm sorry, I can't read between the lines. I'm
Yeah.
getting a hell of a lot better at it now, though. That's taken practice.
Yes, of course.
It's all about having patience.
Mm,
Right?
mm,
Your husband's learning how to do this stuff for the first time ever.
mm.
You're learning how to do this stuff for the first time ever.
Yes.
Have
Yeah.
compassion and patience for yourself and for them.
Mm, mm.
Grow together. No, admit, hey, I'm going to stuff this up. Is it okay if I have your permission that if I stuff it up, that you have compassion for me, and when you stuff it up, I'm going to have compassion for you? Is that okay? But know that I've got to hold myself to a high standard, because if I repeatedly stuff up without any progress, maybe I'm not committed as much as I should be,
Mm.
right? Where's that standard? Where's that agreed upon level, that benchmark that we want to achieve? There's got to be a certain amount of pain there to motivate, to drive. Because if there's not, then one person's just going to say, it's too hard, and therefore I'm just going to leave it. She can do all the work.
Right. Yeah. And that is the attitude, unfortunately. It's just like this, you know, disposable, get rid of, just trash it. And that's what it's happening, unfortunately, in relationships. It's not working. We'll get a next and next. And really, it's not the solution, because you're actually, not healing that part of you. You're just taking more trash to the next relationship, and yeah, having more of a load to carry.
Yeah.
Yes, we
How
have.
many partners can you burden with your own lack of commitment?
Yeah, and usually it's like, oh, it's always them. When you have the person, it's like it's them, it's them. Well, that's when we should be pointing the finger back right at us. Valentine Kimby says, thank you, thank you, thank you for chiming in. And Oksana says, yes, 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 virtual hug. Yeah, definitely. When we just need to communicate, we need to ask those questions. We need to get clear with what it is we want first. I think a lot of the times too, we might be asking questions, but not really knowing what we want. So that's another important factor, wouldn't you say? Because we might be shooting these questions because we hear them, but ideally, we don't know what we want either. So that's going to reassess and see whether it is a relationship that you want. Because sometimes you may be in a relationship and it's not what you really want, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. What's really important? I think it's important to touch base on here, and I know you're very versed in this when it comes to the way in which we communicate. On average, typically, it's usually that women are the anxious communicating, anxious attachment style, and the men are the avoidant attachment style.
Mm,
And essentially, if you think about, if someone's anxious, they're going to move towards, and if someone's avoidant, they're going to move away.
right.
Right? So if you emotionally pressure, if you bail your husband up, or your wife up, and you want answers now, and you need to talk to them about this, and they have to give you all the answers now because your anxiety is too much, the uncomfortability is too much to bear, right? If you need the answers now, then you're going to create an avoidant type who's going to just go, well, that's too much for me. I'm out of here. And so they'll bail up. They'll say, no, I'm not going to do that. We'll talk about it later. It's not a right time. I'm going to be working back late. All these sorts of things, right? As a way to avoid the emotional bombardment that they've just achieved.
Mm,
And then the more you withdraw, the more the anxious type pursues.
correct.
And it's just a never-ending story.
Yeah.
So usually the anxious type is the one that wants to resolve the issues in the relationship. because they need that anxiety to go down, right? So usually they're the one asking for support, okay, which is great, because then we can work with the anxious type as how to create a healthier way of communicating your needs. And this is where we go back to emotions, like I was talking about at the start. Your emotions, your lack of emotional regulation is what's causing the anxiety within you to spill out and overflow onto your partner. So it's about calming down those emotions inside of you, understanding where that anxiety comes from, how to express yourself emotionally in a healing and healthy way, and then using the tools of rules of engagement that we've talked about already, how to start a conversation with avoidant type. Have the conversation, say, hey, babe, something I really want to talk about. Is it okay if after dinner we have a chat? Asking permission. Now, that's a hell of a lot nicer to an avoidant type than, hey, I need to speak to you. Like, whew, big energy shift there, right? Is it okay if we have a chat? I really want to talk to you about something. Great. Now, before you start the conversation, you don't just go bombarding in there, guns a-blazing. No, it's, I've been learning about some stuff and I want to have a chat, and I really want to help our ability to connect and really strengthen our relationship. I'm aware that I'm bringing things to the relationship that maybe not be helpful. And my experience of what you've been doing is somewhat in a similar space. Would you agree? Yes, no? Okay, cool. So here's the things that have really been playing on my mind. But before I start sharing that, is it okay if we kind of, lay down some ground rules of how we can have this conversation? Because I want to make sure that I'm heard and that I feel like you understand what I'm saying. And then I really want to return the favor to you and really hear your side of the fence and hold space for you. Is that okay? Great. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to speak for 10 minutes. And in that 10 minutes, I want no interruptions. I want to be able to say everything of my piece and allow myself to really feel heard. And then I'd like you to be able to summarize back what I've just said to you. Is that okay? After that 10 minutes is up, I'm going to return the favor and I want you to speak for up to 10 minutes. Really get out everything that you want to say. I'm not going to interrupt you. And then I'm going to summarize what you've said to me so that you know that I've understood you. Is that okay? You do that, your relationship will thrive.
And that's just a great way for holding space. Like you're both holding space for each other. It's just an amazing way of doing it. Absolutely. But let's have a look at the avoidance style personality, okay? Because when we have the attachment, they're obviously more extroverts, I would say. They're out there and wanting, and they're verbalizing, they're emotionally expressing, whereas the avoidant personality type is, going backwards and backwards. What would you say to he or her? Because it could be either. Because to me, a lot of the times the avoidant isn't also able to set boundaries. I think that the reason that's happening also is because they're also unable to express themselves, but fundamentally setting healthy boundaries.
Well, I would say that the avoidant type is actually setting boundaries by running.
Yeah.
Like that's a protection,
Yeah,
right? And the anxious type is
the attachment style is not understanding that because they're thinking they're being avoided, right? And that it is a boundary, but it's not expressed, is it? It's not expressed in a way that the attachment style personality is going to understand it, because
correct.
She's just going to keep running after you.
Yeah, I've experienced this firsthand. So in my relationship with my wife, like I was the anxious type, and my wife was a disorganized and avoidant. And it infuriated me that she wasn't able to communicate with me. And I always wanted answers then and there, and she wasn't able to give it to me. And that was really tough. And it was tough for me to realize as an anxious type that I was continuously violating her boundaries repeatedly. And every time I did, she'd withdraw more. Right. And so, us as the anxious type, it's super important to know that we have the proclivity to violate people's boundaries, and then we need to give someone or empower them as much as they can to have their own. That's important, because as you're right, that the boundaries that's being created by the avoidant type is pretty much just flee, right? Like that's a boundary. So it's really not serving anything.
Oh.
And so typically they're going to struggle setting their own boundaries. And so if we're the anxious type and we're looking to help the relationship, it's up to us to say, hey, I think you have boundaries and I've been stomping all over them. I'm going to create a boundary for you. And then I want to see where you're at with that. Is that okay? Can I come a bit further, or do you need me to step back even more? What's that boundary for you? That's a great way to start a conversation to really help the avoidant type know that they're safe. And that's really what it comes down to. If you're avoidant, you're avoiding pain and you need to run to safety. So creating that space is what's ultimately important, because we need safety. We all need safety to be able to communicate.
Right. So, and if that's not happening from the attachment style, personality, tell us, as an avoidant, if you're out there listening to this, and you could be an avoidance, personality type, Jayden, what's the advice you would give the avoidant? Because usually they're running, and we know that that's not going to serve them, right? How can they just make those little moves to, step up in the relationship without running, without
So
feeling they have to
every
run?
single little move that an avoidant style does is incredibly, tremendously courageous.
Mm,
I just want to point that out first and foremost. That is hard work,
it is, yeah.
right? And one little inch that you take towards the opposite direction, like the healthy direction, is a celebration. I really want to point that out. Like, and I see you. It's hard stuff. And so, what would really be the first step is, like, it's tricky. You would need to start doing your own work in your own personal way, essentially, to build up a level of courage to
Mm,
be able to say something without your, because the fear is that I'm going to say something wrong, or I'm not going to know how to handle my emotions when they come up, so I'm just going to avoid it. That's typically what I'm going to be doing. But if you start doing a lot of research on personal development to build yourself up to a point where I'm able to express myself, I'm able to speak even if my voice shakes, that's what it's all about. But it has to be done hand in hand with the anxious type, with your partner. Because if they're unknown, if they're unaware that you're trying to do this, they will unconsciously just steamroll all over you.
mm.
It's not a healthy way.
No, not at all. And definitely, this is how we create conscious, connected. We build on conscious, connection with our partners, don't we?
Yeah.
I think we've really covered a lot here. So I just want to say thank you, Jayden, for sharing and being here today. I mean, it's been pretty cool. We've gone quite deep, but I'm sure there's a lot more, and especially for the ladies out there that need that extra bit of help, Jayden is the man. But before we go, just our last word of advice, or a couple of tips there to our ladies and men, of course.
Yeah, last bit of advice. Like, if you want to start any sort of rebuilding in a relationship, if you want to start learning how to connect with your partner, communication is key.
Mm,
Communicate, over communicate. Like, it's okay. It's okay to feel silly doing this stuff. Don't worry about what your friends did or do, or what your parents, how they connected, right? If you have relationship troubles or struggles, know that you're modeling people before you who didn't know how to do it. And so their judgments are just null and void,
mm,
right? We're here learning how to do it, and you're here learning how to be better. So be unapologetically trying to do better. Be okay with failing, being okay with not getting it right. Trying and not getting it right is better than not trying and getting it continuously wrong. So be courageous enough to start those conversations. Have the chat with your partner. If your partner's not willing to humor the idea, start working on yourself first. Work on yourself enough to start figuring out, what contributions to the relationship am I making that are damaging? What parts am I doing? If you start taking away as many of your contributions to the relationship that are negative as possible, what will be left is majority your partner's. Now, that can be really hard to deny for your partner, because you can say, well, look at how much work I've done. I'm nearly maxed out in what I can do by myself. Look at all your stuff. That's a powerful way to do it. But that's kind of the last resort. What I would really say is, again, focus on connection, focus on communication. Do it together. You're in a relationship together. What brought you together to begin with? Rekindle that. Open up the dialogue, have a chat, and do it as a team.
Definitely. Yeah, I think that's key. What brought you together in the first place? Because you can rekindle that, and if it's still, you're still there, that means that flame is still going. Just need to, get some more ignition into it. Fantastic. So just quickly, how can the ladies get hold of you, Jayden?
Yes, so you can see my name there, Jayden Leigh. You can add me on Facebook. My DMs are always open, and also you can check out my website, which is my name, jaydenleigh.com. Happy to support and give any information that you need and support you on your journey.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, thank you. Thank you once again. I just want to acknowledge you again for bringing such great service to the community and to the world. And I look forward to catching up with you again. And Oksana quickly just says, thank you, Jayden and Stefania. Great suggestions and show. Kiss, kiss, kiss. Thank you, Oksana. And thank you, everybody. Thanks for chiming in. Thank you for being part of Let's Talk Relationship. Of course, I always invite you to send me any questions, anything you want us to bring up on the show. I'm happy to talk about. And I look forward to catching up with you all next week. Until then, as always, I send you love. I send you passion. Bye for now. Thank you, Jayden.
See you all.
Bye.